Hey, everybody. Seth Carpian, a member of Tech Pact, and I'm joined today by Pat Hunter. Welcome, Pat.
Hey, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thanks for helping us, helping Tech Pact celebrate Juneteenth. Some of the suggestions that are made around celebrating Juneteenth are supporting a Black business, and we'll talk more about that through our conversation. Another is speaking with a Black artist, which you are, and I know we're going to talk more about that as well. So before getting into the questions, though, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? And also, I do want to hear one really cool story, and I have in mind the cool story that I want to hear because I know it, but I'd love to hear one cool story for the rest of the audience as well, Pat, if you could.
Yeah, for sure. So, Seth, as you mentioned, I am Patrick Hunter, but I go by Pat Castle on stage, and so Pat Castle is my alter ego where I don a paintbrush and I go on stage and I create portraits to music in just a few moments. But before that, I grew up in Detroit as a bit of an artist, decided after high school, contemplated taking a different route. I wasn't quite sure if our career was going to be the sustainable lifestyle style that I was looking for. So I ended up taking a different route and went into engineering and found myself actually merging both technology as well as art, and that created this opportunity to be a performance painter.
And so what's one really cool story that you like to share?
Yeah. So I'll give you one short one, and since I have a painting in the back, I'll talk about that one. I had an opportunity a few years back when I first started to open for Snoop Dogg, and so I got to be a performer, and then after the show, I had a painting that he signed, so I have it in the house. But I also had a chance to do a painting of Nelson Mandela. It was on his 95th birthday, his last birthday, and we unveiled it at the American golf tournament. It was the celebrity golf tournament. So it was signed by 26 celebrities, of which I believe there's 10 Hall of Fame athletes between basketball, football, and baseball.
Wow, that's two cool stories for the price of one. I appreciate that, Pat. That's great. So we've also talked a little bit in the past about what really motivated you to become who you are, and I was hoping that you could share a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I try to share that story because it's one that it particularly aligns with my passion as a kid who was leaving high school and feeling like I had to choose between where I was passionate and gifted and where I can make a living. Now kind of being on the other end and seeing the value of pursuing your passions, I try to speak as much as possible to inspire young people that you don't have to choose. You find a way where it's blended. In my story, I chose the path of engineering as a way to make a living. It wasn't anything other than I just wanted it for a check. And my mom, a few years into the career, called me and said, "Hey, so what are you doing with your gift?" Now, parents, they already knew the answer, but she asked me anyway. So I was like, I haven't touched art in 10 years. Why are we talking about this? And she quickly reminded me that, first of all, your gift isn't yours to begin with. It's for others. And so when you use your gift, others benefit from it. And so she reminded me that that I didn't really have a choice in that, and I need to figure out how to use it. So I started that was the road of performance painting, and she passed away a year later, and I decided to really put myself into the space and really dedicate to being all that I was created to be, as she would say. And it's provided me a lot of great opportunities. And I'll end it by saying this: I had an opportunity a couple years ago to go on Steve Harvey's talk show and share a little bit about my art career and how it's blended with my engineering career and how I see, really, in my opinion, science and the arts are very much the same. They're just spoken in different languages, different sides of the same coins, I would say. And when I was on his show, he said, your career is what you're paid for, but your gift is what you're made for. And so I think it just fully encapsulates my story. And I try to reach young people so that as they get to that fork in the road, to really think about their gift, and that their gift could open it up paths to do things that they couldn't imagine, like opening up for Snoop Dogg.
That's right. that is fantastic. I do have to ask, so Pat Casso, who gave you that nickname?
Well, that's me. That's all creativity.
No, it's the artist in you still.
Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to hip hop music, because hip hop does a great job with just putting a spin on things, and growing up in that era, and looking at how they remix the way you look at clothes to remixing the way you hear music. It was just a natural progression that I would say, what's a way that I could take my name and spin it? So
that's great.
Took Picasso, and in the spirit of Picasso, he was quoted for saying that good artists borrow and great artists steal. So I stole his name.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. So obviously there are challenges as a business owner. How do you deal with those along the way? How do you deal with those challenges that come up?
Yeah, you just if you have a desire and a passion, you figure it out. So I've had this great opportunity, and I can't take all the credit. I started with having a gift and a passion and some vision, and I've been able to be in the rooms of just fantastic people. So it's a lot easier to sell who you are and what you do when they've had a chance to see you in your own element and doing what you do. So most of my business has been word of mouth. And yes, there's challenges. I'm still trying to figure it out, because I won't say that, I naturally understand all the aspects of business and how to have a successful business. But I've been fortunate that, they say the greatest lessons you learn are the ones that, probably hurt the hardest. And taken from Nelson Mandela there, he said, you don't lose, you either win or you learn. So I've had a lot of learning lessons, and I'm figuring it out. And what I don't know yet, maybe one of your listeners will be a mentor to me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, with challenges comes success, right? And as you mentioned, you're learning along the way. And what is it that drives you? Whether it's in the technology space or in your business, what is it that drives you personally to succeed? And how are you recognizing the success along the way?
Yeah, so I think the engineering experience that I've had after graduating from Michigan with a computer science degree, I worked with a technology company for quite a few years before moving into more of the business side of the business. But what engineering has provided me was just this understanding of systems, and having the understanding that if you understand the system, then you can repeat it and you will get the same results.
Repeatable process, right?
Yeah. You obviously want to refine it and make continuous improvement. But with that, I've been trying to figure out in my own business life of what's the process, and looking at it from a system perspective of, someone's figured out how to be successful. So if I can figure out what the system is, then it could become repeatable for me.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I mean, is that similar to the advice that you would give another minority business owner, or what would you say to, a minority that's trying to start their own business at this point?
Yeah. So, my bias, because I'm diverse, and come from a minority background, in the sense of, here's my bias, is that I think that people, and this is regardless of ethnicity or even gender or anything else really, but I think that lack of resources forces one to become more creative. And so I think the set of circumstances that many people that have similar backgrounds of me, is that you have this creative space. You've already kind of naturally remixed things, so now it's it's opportunity meeting preparation. So it's putting in the work and preparing. And the hardest part, at least in my experience, has been having the relationships. But I think again, creative backgrounds that I think many folks that share have, really putting in the work to be prepared for the opportunity, and then just getting yourself out there. Which again, I think a lot of the guys that I grew up with in Detroit, they just believe that we're going to hustle harder, and you're going to take note of what we have to say at some point. So it's kind of a repeatable system in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think people probably hear the cool stories that you have, but they don't realize the hard work that came before getting on stage with Snoop Dogg and being on the Steve Harvey show. I mean, it's a lot of hard work prior to that to get there, right?
Yeah, prior to, but it's the same thing. It was opportunity presenting itself, and I happened to be ready. And quick story on the Snoop Dogg, how that even happened. Yeah, I was opening for Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, which was a group that I listened to growing up. So that was cool. Detroit and Cleveland, where they were from, was right down the way. Mm-hmm. And I opened for an opening act of their show, and I'm backstage speaking to the stage manager and selling myself to why I should come back. And he said, well, the group is actually 3 hours late. So if you're prepared now, then we'll put you back on stage and give you a solo act. And so I ran to the studio, grabbed the canvas, came back, opened the show. Was nervous because they've been waiting for Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. They weren't looking for me. So I walked out on stage hoping that they weren't going to boo me off. So I was like, hit the music as soon as we go. Fortunately, it was only an 8-minute song, so not enough time to really get mad at me. It was enough treat and treat. And so, I created this piece of artwork. They were happy with it. I was backstage. I said, so now what? It was all right. Snoop's here in a week.
That's a great story. That's even more expanded than the original story I got. So I love it. That's great, Pat. So switching a little bit on the topic, let's talk about this past year. 2020 was tough for everybody. Did the events over the last year change the way you're doing your business, and maybe not just in the way that you're doing your business, but how you did things in your life, in your art, in your business, and the challenges that were there? How did you overcome those? Or do you feel like you have overcome them, or you're still overcoming them?
Yeah, it's been a lesson. Certainly provided a lot of lessons that I'm continuously learning from right now. But it's one that I think we're all kind of dealing with in some ways. But I think the main thing for me is that it's helped me to really kind of help to reconnect with the whole purpose of it all, really. What I mean by that is my business has been performing on stage at events. So there were no more events, so there were no more performances. So that went away, and that could have completely folded the business, but I had to reinvent myself. But the great thing in how I reinvented myself was really based off of what's important to people. I started getting requests from people to say, hey, I'm now sitting in my, these 4 walls that I normally spent 5 minutes in between running from, to meetings and to work. Now I'm sitting in it all day, and they need some artwork on it. And I kept getting those calls. And at a certain point, I realized there's an opportunity to actually make that more of a business. So I'm actually in the process right now of developing a platform that's going to make that easier for people to meet people like myself to get art.
Oh, that's great. A lot of innovation, they say, has come out of 2020, the pandemic, and everything that was that we dealt with in 2020. So it's really cool to hear some good things coming out of this period. Yeah. Focus on the positives. What advice would you provide for young people that are starting out, want to start their own business, especially in this world of technology?
Yeah, I hit you with the theoretical first and then get into a little specific. I think I've heard it said that we all come here as individuals, but most of us leave as carbon copies. And so it is really listening to your guiding star and recognizing what are you really here for. Now, that's kind of the visionary piece, or the the guiding piece. Then outside of that, I would say get as many tools as you can get. Me having this engineering background and having an art background, having spent some time running a business, giving me a chance to learn marketing the hard way, having the systems knowledge from engineering, having kind of that learning, self-learning of being an artist. I think as many tools as you could possibly get as you start to identify what is meaningful to people, what makes someone's life better, how do you solve a problem for someone, and if you can continuously be thinking about how you can make someone's life better, and you have a bunch of tools to help you, you'll be much more prepared to provide, to be successful.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic news, and or fantastic advice. And I can tell that you've given it before, because it's flowing off your tongue like that, and that's great. And it's good to know that you're consistent in your message with that. At least that's what I hear. And so, one final question: 3 words that make you hopeful for the future. And I'm stealing that from my colleague Tara, who did this on the last Ignite. I really liked it, so I wanted to throw it at you as well, Pat.
3 words, optimistic of the future. I'd say purpose, promise, and persistence.
I'm good with that. Yeah. That's great. Hey, Pat.
From a P.
What's that?
I said 3 P's from P Hunter.
There we go. from Pat Casa.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. Well, Pat, listen, really appreciate your time today. I really enjoyed the conversation, hearing all the advice that you have to share and what you've done and where you've come to. It's great to hear. I did want to remind everybody else listening to this to go to techpack.org, take the pledge. Pat, I know you have, or I hope you have, share it with others and start making impact. Pat, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate the conversation.
Hey, thanks, Seth, for allowing me to share my story.
Absolutely. Be good.
Okay, thanks.